A Sufi scholar once said, "When Allah chooses a soul for himself, He makes dunya feel empty in their heart first." And maybe lately you have been feeling this without understanding why. You sit with people, yet still feel alone. You achieve things, yet still feel empty afterward. You try to distract yourself, but your soul keeps searching for something deeper. My brother, my sister, imagine a man lost in a desert at night. He spends hours chasing mirages, thinking they are water, but every time he reaches them, they disappear, until finally, completely exhausted, he falls to his knees and looks toward the sky for real guidance. That is exactly what happens when Allah begins awakening a servant. The dunya stops satisfying the soul, people stop feeling enough, distractions stop working, and suddenly, the heart begins searching for Allah in a way it never did before. So if you have been feeling emotionally different lately, this may not be sadness. This may be the moment Allah is calling your soul back to Him. When Allah chooses you for Himself, the world suddenly stops feeling like home. You still smile around people, but deep inside, something about this dunya no longer feels real to you anymore. The same conversations feel empty, the same distractions feel exhausting, and maybe lately, you feel emotionally disconnected from things everyone else seems obsessed with. Because when Allah begins choosing a servant for closeness, He slowly removes the sweetness of dunya from their heart first. And this change can feel very confusing in the beginning, because from the outside, your life may still look normal. You still wake up, still work, still talk to people, still laugh sometimes. But inside your chest, something feels different. You start noticing how temporary everything is. The attention people chase no longer impresses you. The endless drama feels meaningless. Even the things you once prayed for begin losing their power over your heart. And maybe you secretly wonder, why do I suddenly feel distant from everything? My brother, my sister, sometimes this is not sadness. Sometimes this is spiritual awakening. Allah begins pulling your soul away from dunya because He wants your heart to depend on Him more than this world. And this process often feels lonely, because the people around you may not understand what is happening inside you. They still find peace in distractions, while your soul keeps searching for something deeper. You try to enjoy the same things they enjoy, but your heart no longer feels fully present there. Late at night, you sit quietly with your thoughts, and deep inside, you feel a strange longing you cannot explain. A longing for peace, a longing for sincerity, a longing for Allah. This is why many people chosen for spiritual closeness begin feeling emotionally uncomfortable with dunya before they feel close to Allah completely. Because Allah is slowly emptying the heart first. He removes certain attachments, certain desires, certain illusions, not to punish you, but to prepare your soul for something greater. And maybe lately, Allah has been separating you from things that once controlled your heart, because He wants you to discover a peace that does not depend on people, attention, or temporary happiness. The world suddenly stops feeling like home, because your soul is beginning to remember that it was created for something far beyond this dunya. The pain keeping you awake at night may be Allah purifying your soul for a higher rank. You keep asking yourself why life suddenly became so emotionally heavy, why your chest feels tired all the time, why the heartbreaks keep repeating, why the people you loved the most became the source of your deepest pain. And maybe there are nights where you sit alone thinking, Ya Allah, why does everything keep hurting so much? Because from the outside, people only see your silence. They do not see the battle happening inside your heart. They do not see how many times you smiled while secretly trying not to break down. They do not see the emotional exhaustion you carry every single day. But my brother, my sister, sometimes Allah allows pain into the life of a servant He deeply loves, not because He wants to destroy them, but because He wants to purify them. Sufi scholars often spoke about how suffering breaks the illusion of dunya, because comfort can sometimes make the heart forget Allah. When life becomes easy, the soul slowly becomes attached to temporary things, to people, to validation, to status, to comfort. And without realizing it, the heart begins depending on dunya more than Allah. So sometimes, Allah removes the very things your soul became addicted to. And this removal hurts deeply, because detachment feels painful before it feels peaceful. Maybe that is why certain relationships suddenly collapsed. Maybe that is why certain plans failed no matter how hard you tried. Maybe Allah saw something your emotional attachment refused to see. Because there are moments where Allah saves you through disappointment. There are moments where unanswered prayers are actually protection. And one of the hardest spiritual lessons is realizing not everything you cried for was good for your soul. Sometimes Allah breaks your heart to save your akhirah. And maybe lately, you have been feeling spiritually exhausted because Allah is teaching your soul to depend on Him alone. This is why your pain keeps pushing you back toward prayer, back toward sujood, back toward late-night conversations with Allah nobody else knows about, because pain has a strange power. It removes illusions. When your heart breaks enough, you finally realize no human being can carry the emotional weight your soul was created to place upon Allah. And that realization changes a person forever. Suddenly, you stop expecting people to heal what only Allah can heal. You stop chasing love in the same desperate way. You stop depending on temporary things to give your soul permanent peace. Because deep suffering often creates deep awakening. The servants closest to Allah were not always the people with the easiest lives. Many of them carried hidden sadness inside their chest, but their pain brought them closer to Allah instead of further away. And maybe that is the real sign hidden inside your suffering. Despite everything you went through, your soul still searches for Allah. Your heart still longs for Him. Even after every disappointment, you still whisper, Ya Allah, in the darkness. And perhaps that pain keeping you awake at night is slowly transforming your soul into someone who belongs more to Allah than to this dunya. If your heart can never stay far from Allah for long, this is not normal. You try to distract yourself. You try to become careless again. You try to bury your emotions inside dunya. But somehow, your soul always returns back to Allah. And maybe this keeps happening to you in ways you cannot explain. You go through periods where your iman becomes weak. You become distracted, emotionally tired, spiritually distant. You tell yourself you will pray later, repent later, change later. But then suddenly, something inside your chest begins feeling heavy again. The guilt returns, the emptiness returns, and your soul quietly starts searching for Allah again. My brother, my sister, this is not something small, because not every heart feels pain after becoming distant from Allah. Some hearts become completely comfortable in heedlessness. But the servant Allah wants near Him can never fully escape Him for long. Allah keeps calling them back again and again and again, sometimes through hardship, sometimes through heartbreak, sometimes through a random reminder that suddenly shakes the soul awake. And maybe you have experienced moments like this recently. A Quran verse suddenly hit your heart differently. A late-night breakdown pushed you into sujood. A painful disappointment made you realize how temporary people truly are. And suddenly, your soul started longing for Allah again in a way you cannot explain. This is one of the most beautiful signs of divine mercy, because Allah does not keep inviting every soul back toward Him. The fact that your heart still feels guilt, still feels emotional when hearing Quran, still wants closeness to Allah after every mistake, is itself a sign that your soul is spiritually alive. Ibn Arabi and many Sufi scholars described how Allah secretly pulls certain servants toward Him through unseen spiritual attraction, not because they are perfect, but because Allah wants them near Him. That is why your heart cannot fully enjoy sin anymore. You try to numb yourself with dunya, yet something still feels missing. You laugh with people, yet your soul still feels restless at night, because your heart was not created to live far from Allah. And maybe lately, Allah has been allowing certain struggles in your life because He is bringing you back toward Him gently, not through punishment alone, but through longing, through emptiness, through emotional exhaustion that forces your soul to finally look upward again. And the beautiful thing is this: every time you return to Allah, He still opens the door. Even after your mistakes, even after your weakness, even after the nights you became distant, Allah still allows your heart to return. That is mercy. That is love. That is a sign your soul may be more special to Allah than you realize. Because one of the strongest spiritual signs is not perfection, it is return. The constant return back to Allah, no matter how many times the world pulls you away. The people who abandoned you may have been removed by Allah to protect your light. You still remember how suddenly they changed toward you, how the people who once promised loyalty became distant without explanation, how certain friendships slowly became cold, how certain relationships left scars you still carry quietly inside your chest. And maybe the hardest part was not losing them, but trying to understand why Allah allowed it to happen. Because you loved them sincerely, you cared deeply, you stayed loyal even when they hurt you. So part of you still asks, why did Allah let them leave me? But my brother, my sister, sometimes Allah removes people because your heart became too attached to them. Sometimes the people you cried over were slowly damaging your soul without you realizing it. Not every person who enters your life is meant to stay. Some people are only temporary lessons. Some are tests, and some are distractions that quietly pull your heart further away from Allah. But emotional attachment blinds us. We ignore the red flags. We tolerate disrespect. We keep chasing people who slowly drain our peace. Because deep inside, we fear being alone. And maybe that fear made you hold on to people Allah was trying to remove. That is why their departure hurt so deeply. Because Allah was not only removing people, He was breaking unhealthy attachments inside your heart. And this process feels painful before it feels peaceful. At first, you only see the loss. You replay the memories. You wonder what you did wrong. You question your worth. You compare yourself to the people they chose over you. But later, sometimes much later, Allah opens your eyes to what He protected you from. You realize how much anxiety those people caused you, how emotionally exhausted you became trying to keep them, how much of your peace disappeared while begging for love that was never sincere. And suddenly, you understand why Allah separated you from them. Because Allah saw what your emotions refused to see. The Sufi scholars often spoke about how Allah protects certain servants by removing harmful connections from their lives. Not because those servants are unloved, but because their souls are being prepared for something greater. And maybe that is what is happening to you right now. Maybe Allah is clearing space around your heart. Maybe He is teaching you not to depend completely on human beings. Because humans change, humans disappoint, humans leave. But Allah never abandons the servant who sincerely turns back to Him. And perhaps the loneliness you feel after losing certain people is actually creating room for deeper closeness with Allah. Because sometimes Allah isolates a servant before elevating them spiritually. He removes noise, distractions, false love, fake loyalty, so the soul can finally hear Him clearly again. And maybe tonight, you are still grieving people who no longer belong in your story. But trust this. If Allah removed them, He saw something your heart could not yet understand. And one day, you may thank Allah for doors He closed while you were crying for them to stay open. When you feel spiritually lonely around everyone, Allah may be pulling you closer to Him. You sit with people, yet still feel alone inside. You smile during conversations, yet your heart secretly feels distant from everything around you. And maybe lately, you have been feeling a type of loneliness that words cannot fully explain. Not just loneliness from lacking people, but loneliness inside the soul itself. Because even when surrounded by others, something still feels missing, and this feeling scares you sometimes. You wonder why nobody truly understands what your heart has been carrying lately. The overthinking, the emotional heaviness, the quiet longing for peace, the constant feeling that your soul is searching for something deeper than dunya. My brother, my sister, sometimes spiritual loneliness is not punishment. Sometimes it is invitation. Allah pulls certain servants away from the noise of dunya because He wants their hearts to become attached to Him alone. And this stage can feel extremely isolating, because the things that satisfy other people no longer satisfy you the same way. You try to enjoy the distractions, you try to fit in, you try to care about the same things everyone else cares about. But your soul still feels restless afterward, because once Allah awakens a heart, it becomes difficult for that heart to find complete peace in dunya anymore. This world was never meant to fully satisfy the believer, and maybe that is the lesson your soul is slowly learning now. The late night emptiness, the emotional exhaustion, the strange feeling of disconnection may actually be your soul beginning to crave Allah more than worldly comfort. Sufi scholars described this as the loneliness of awakening, the moment when Allah begins separating the servant emotionally from dunya before bringing them closer to divine intimacy. At first, this process hurts deeply, because you feel misunderstood, you feel emotionally distant from people around you. You stop enjoying meaningless conversations. Your heart becomes sensitive to fake energy. Certain environments suddenly drain your soul, and you start wondering if something is wrong with you. But perhaps nothing is wrong. Perhaps your soul is changing. Perhaps Allah is teaching your heart that real peace cannot be found in people alone, because people can comfort you temporarily, but only Allah can heal the emptiness buried deep inside the soul. And maybe this is why you keep returning to quiet moments lately, why your heart feels calmer during prayer than during crowds, why late at night, when the world becomes silent, your soul suddenly feels closer to Allah. Because sometimes Allah uses loneliness to create intimacy between Him and His servant. The world becomes quieter, so the soul can finally hear Him. And perhaps the loneliness you fear so much right now is actually the beginning of your spiritual transformation, because many of the servants closest to Allah first walked through seasons where they felt emotionally alone in dunya, not because Allah abandoned them, but because He was preparing their hearts to belong more to Him than to this world. The tears you hide during sujood may be a secret sign of divine love. There are nights where you cannot even explain what hurts anymore. You just feel emotionally tired, heavy inside, drained in a way sleep cannot fix. And maybe lately, you have been carrying silent pain nobody around you fully sees. You still function, still smile, still answer people normally, but deep inside, your soul feels exhausted from fighting battles nobody knows about. And then something strange happens. You stand in prayer, trying to stay composed, trying to hold yourself together. But the moment your forehead touches the ground, your chest suddenly collapses. The tears come without warning. Your heart starts speaking words your mouth could never explain to people. And maybe afterward, you feel ashamed of how emotional you became. You think, why am I this weak? But my brother, my sister, sometimes those tears are not weakness at all. Sometimes they are signs your heart is still spiritually alive. Because there are hearts so hardened by dunya, they no longer feel anything when standing before Allah. But your heart still breaks, still trembles, still longs for Allah during sujood. And that matters more than you realize. The Sufi scholars often describe tears in worship as a hidden mercy from Allah, because not every servant is allowed to feel softness in their heart. Not every servant is invited into that vulnerable closeness with Allah. Some people can cry over dunya, but cannot cry in front of their Creator. Yet your soul still melts when speaking to Allah alone. And maybe this is because your pain has slowly purified your heart. Pain changes a person. It strips away pride. It humbles the soul. It forces you to realize how powerless human beings truly are. And perhaps that is why your sujood feels different lately. Because your heart is no longer praying only with words. It is praying with wounds, with longing, with emotional exhaustion, with quiet desperation for Allah's mercy. And Allah sees every hidden tear you wipe away when nobody else is watching. He sees the nights you almost gave up emotionally. He sees the moments you felt abandoned by everyone. He sees the fear inside your chest, that you never fully speak about. And still, he keeps inviting you back into sujud. That itself is mercy. Because one of the signs Allah wants good for a servant is that he keeps their heart connected to him during hardship. Some people only remember Allah during ease. But the servant Allah is spiritually raising begins running toward him through pain. And maybe this is why your tears feel different now. You are no longer crying only because life hurts. You are crying because your soul misses Allah. Because deep inside, your heart is tired of depending on dunya for peace. You want something deeper, something pure, something permanent, and that longing itself is sacred. Never underestimate the value of sincere tears before Allah. A single tear shed in sincere love or fear of Allah can change the entire state of a soul, and perhaps the tears you hide during sujud are not signs that Allah abandoned you. Perhaps they are proof He is drawing you closer than ever before. Why the servants Allah loves most often suffer the deepest inner battles. People see your silence, but they do not see the war happening inside your chest every day. They do not see how exhausted your mind becomes from overthinking. How many nights you spend fighting your own emotions. How often you battle sadness while pretending everything is okay. And maybe lately, you feel tired of carrying this invisible weight inside you. Because some battles leave no visible scars. No one sees them. No one fully understands them. Yet they slowly drain the soul from within. And sometimes you even ask yourself, why does my heart struggle this much if I am trying to stay close to Allah? But my brother, my sister, the people Allah spiritually elevates are often tested deeply inside themselves, because inner battles purify the soul in ways comfort never can. The prophets themselves carried enormous emotional pain. They experienced loneliness, rejection, grief, fear, misunderstanding. Even the people closest to Allah were not strangers to emotional suffering, and that is something many people forget. Being loved by Allah does not mean life becomes easy. Sometimes it means Allah is preparing your soul for a higher level of closeness through struggle, because hardship exposes what is truly inside the heart. When life breaks you emotionally, your real dependency becomes visible. Some people run toward distractions, others toward sins, others toward numbness. But the servant Allah wants near him keeps returning back to Allah, even while struggling, even while crying, even while feeling spiritually exhausted. And maybe that is exactly the battle happening inside you right now. Part of you feels tired. Part of you feels weak. Part of you wants to escape the emotional pressure inside your chest. But another part of you still longs for Allah, still wants peace through Him, still wants to heal spiritually, instead of just escaping temporarily. And that conflict is painful, because spiritual growth often feels like war inside the soul before it feels like peace. The Sufi scholars understood this deeply. They knew the path toward Allah was not only about outward worship, it was also about surviving the storms inside the heart. The ego, the fears, the attachments, the emotional wounds, the hidden loneliness. And maybe lately, Allah has been allowing these inner battles because He is teaching your soul reliance upon Him alone, not people, not validation, not dunya, Him. Because sometimes Allah isolates a servant emotionally so they stop depending on everyone except Him. And during this process, you may feel misunderstood by almost everyone around you. People may think you became distant, too emotional, too quiet. But what they do not understand is this: your soul is fighting battles they cannot see. Battles between dunya and akhirah, between attachment and surrender, between despair and trust in Allah. And perhaps that is why your heart feels so tired lately. You are not only carrying worldly stress, you are carrying spiritual transformation. And transformation is painful. Before Allah heals the soul completely, He often exposes every hidden wound inside it first. So if your inner battles have become intense lately, do not immediately think Allah has abandoned you. Sometimes the deepest battles are given to the souls Allah intends to elevate the highest, because diamonds are not created without pressure, and strong hearts are not created without pain. When dunya no longer satisfies you, Your soul may be waking up. You finally achieved things you once cried for, yet your heart still feels empty afterward. The excitement fades quickly. The happiness never lasts as long as you expected. And maybe lately, this realization has been scaring you, because part of you keeps wondering, why do I still feel incomplete even after getting what I wanted? You thought success would heal you. You thought attention would fulfill you. You thought if certain people finally loved you, your heart would finally feel at peace. But instead, the emptiness keeps returning again and again and again. My brother, my sister, this is one of the deepest spiritual awakenings a person can experience. The moment the soul begins realizing dunya was never designed to fully satisfy the human heart. This world gives temporary pleasure, not permanent peace. And the problem is not always the dunya itself. The problem is when we expect dunya to heal needs only Allah can heal. That is why even people who seem successful often feel spiritually empty inside. They have money, yet no peace. People around them, yet deep loneliness. Achievements, yet restless hearts. Because the soul was created for something greater than temporary satisfaction. And maybe Allah is allowing you to feel this emptiness because He wants your heart to stop worshipping temporary things. The Sufi scholars often described dunya as a beautiful illusion, not because life itself is evil, but because people become emotionally hypnotized by it. They chase pleasure thinking it will finally complete them. They chase validation thinking it will finally heal them. They chase human love, believing it will remove the loneliness inside them. But eventually, the soul discovers a painful truth. Nothing created can fully satisfy a heart created to know Allah. And maybe this is why your heart feels different lately. The distractions no longer hit the same. Certain environments suddenly exhaust you. You spend time around people, yet still feel spiritually empty afterward, because your soul is beginning to wake up from the illusion that dunya can save it. And awakening often feels uncomfortable at first, because Allah starts removing the emotional sweetness from things that once distracted you from Him, not to punish you, but to redirect you. You may notice yourself craving silence more, craving sincerity more, craving moments alone with Allah more than endless social noise. And perhaps part of you misses the old version of yourself, the version that could easily become distracted. But your soul cannot fully sleep anymore after Allah begins awakening it. That is why you feel emotionally restless after too much dunya, because deep inside, your heart is searching for something eternal, something pure, something untouched by the temporary nature of this world. And only Allah can fill that space completely. Not relationships, not money, not achievements, not attention, only Allah. This is why some of the people closest to Allah appear detached from dunya emotionally, not because they hate life, but because they finally understand its reality. They enjoy blessings, but do not worship them. They love people, but do not depend completely upon them, because their hearts already know. Everything in dunya eventually fades. Beauty fades. People change. Status disappears. Life itself ends. But Allah remains, and perhaps the emptiness you keep feeling lately is not proof something is wrong with you. Perhaps it is proof your soul is beginning to remember where true peace actually comes from. Ya Allah, if our hearts have become lost in this dunya, bring them back to you gently. Remove every attachment that is pulling us away from your light. Heal the emptiness inside our souls with your closeness. And if we are among the servants you secretly love, then never allow our hearts to live far from you again. Ameen.